If asking one honest question is enough to shake our belief, did we really become atheists? Or did we simply dare to think? Why were we taught that doubt is dangerous? Why is the first label after questioning God so often atheist? When we question politics, people call it awareness. When we question science, people call it curiosity. But when we question God, suddenly it becomes rebellion. So, what really happened? Did we lose faith? Or did we finally start taking belief seriously? Tonight, we are not here to attack anyone, but we are not here to fear questions either. Because if something is true, it should be survive examination. And if it cannot, maybe the problem was never the person asking. This is where difficult questions are allowed to breathe. Most of us inherited belief before we ever examined it. Most people do not choose belief the way they choose a career or city or philosophy. They receive it early, before comparison is possible, before skepticism feels safe, before critical thinking is fully formed. Belief often enters our life the same way language does, the same way customs do, the same way identity does, quietly, automatically. And because it arrives so early, many people never stop to ask, did I truly choose this belief? Or did I simply inherit it? Then one day, something shifts. A personal tragedy, a moral contradiction, unanswered suffering, a hypocrisy we can't ignore, or one simple question nobody wants to answer. And in that moment, the first crack appears. That crack is called doubt. Doubt is not the same as destruction. Doubt is often treated like an enemy, but doubt does not destroy. Doubt does not scream. Doubt does not burn things down. Doubt does not silence others. Doubt asks one quiet question. Are you sure? That's all. And strangely, for many people, that calm question feels more dangerous than open disbelief. Because disbelief can be dismissed, it can be labeled, it can be condemned. But doubt is harder to fight because doubt sounds reasonable, and sometimes it is. Doubt is not the same as atheism. This is where many conversations collapse. People treat questioning as rejection, uncertainty as hostility, asking for evidence as disrespect. But these things are not the same. Doubt is often a stage of searching, a person still listening, still exploring, still hoping answers exist, still willing to be convinced. Atheism, spatially thoughtful atheism, is usually something else. It often comes after a long process, after reading arguments, after hearing explanations, after comparing claims, after watching answers create even more questions. Doubt says maybe. Atheism often says, I looked carefully and I'm not convinced. Those are very different positions. Why are people taught to fear doubt? Because doubt threatens certainty. If people begin asking questions, authority weakens. If people compare explanations, inherited power weakens. If people demand evidence, blind loyalty weakens. That is true in politics. It is true in culture. And sometimes it is true in religion. That is why many people are taught early, don't ask too much. Don't overthink it. Just trust. Just believe. But truth does not need protection from questions. Only fragile ideas do. Where doubt usually begins. Many people do not begin doubting because they want to be rebel. They begin doubting because things stop fitting together. We hear about perfect love while witnessing pointless suffering. We hear about perfect justice while seeing injustice everywhere. We hear about divine wisdom while noticing contradictions no one explains clearly. We hear that answers exist, but only if we stop asking the wrong questions. Eventually, some minds notice the tension. And once that happens, doubt becomes natural, not evil, natural. Doubt still leaves door open. Doubt has not closed the case. Doubt still allows for possibility. It still wonders whether better answer exists. It still hopes clarity may come. It still keeps the door unlocked. That's why doubt can be uncomfortable. It places a person in suspension, not fully inside belief, not fully outside it. And human beings rarely enjoy living in uncertainty forever. Why some people move beyond doubt? For some people, doubt eventually fades and faith returns stronger. That happens. But for the others, doubt deepens into a conclusion. The evidence never reached the standards they use anywhere else in life. That happens too. Some remain uncertain for years. Some step away completely. Different people, different journeys. But calling every doubter an atheist is lazy thinking. And calling every atheist bitter or angry is lazy thinking too. Not every rejection is thoughtful. We should be honest. Not every rejection of religion is deeply reasoned. Sometimes disbelief is reactive, a response to trauma, to hypocrisy, to abuse, to disappointment. That exists. But conscious disbelief is something different. It does not come mainly from rage. It comes from examination, from someone who looked closely and could not longer pretend to be convinced. That distinction matters. Living belief is often harder than saying. People sometimes imagine atheism is the easy route. For many people, it is the opposite. Leaving belief means losing community, disappointing family, facing loneliness. rebuilding identity, rethinking morality, confronting death without comforting answers. That is not social convenience. That is often a costly form of honesty. The identity crisis nobody talks about. For many people, God is not just an idea. God is tied to childhood, to parents, to rituals, to safety, to belonging, to memories. So when doubt appears, it is not just a belief being questioned. It can feel like the self is cracking. And when someone finally leaves belief, they often have to build a new identity from the ground up. That is not simple. That is deeply personal work. Does doubt always lead back to faith? Some people say doubt is just a step toward stronger belief. Sometimes it's true, but not always. Sometimes doubt leads deeper into religion. Sometimes it leads out of religion. Sometimes it leads to uncertainty. Sometimes it leads to a completely different world. Human journeys are not identical, and truth should not be feared just because it leads people in different directions. The real difference: doubt is a question. Conscious disbelief is often the result of a long investigation. Doubt says, I'm not sure. Disbelief says, I examined the case and I remained unconvinced. That is not the same as rebellion, not the same as laziness, not the same as hatred. Sometimes it is simply intellectual honesty. Maybe the bigger question was never God. Maybe the deeper issue is courage. Do we have the courage to examine what shaped us? Do we have the courage to admit uncertainty? Do we have the courage to follow evidence even when it costs us relationships, comfort, or identity? Because doubt is often the first sign of that courage. And sometimes atheism is where that courage leads. Not always, but sometimes. If a belief collapses under a few honest questions, maybe the problem was never the question. Maybe the belief was weaker than we were told. We should not fear doubt. We should fear a life where we were never allowed to think. We are not here to fight believers. We are not here to worship disbelief. We are here to think clearly, to question honestly, to follow truth, because the search matters more than the labels. And never forget, nothing is more sacred than asking questions